Hi everyone, so in this video I am going to be doing my own nails so you can watch me work from start to finish. So I will be e-filing the previous design off, working over the cuticle area and prepping the nail ready to reapply the bonder and the shaper for the Plexigel, and then come in with a new design, which I'm going to go for a sparkly leopard print, with it being close to Christmas now. So as always, you've seen me do the filing before, so I'll let you just watch this section here and I'll let it run through quite quickly. All right, guys. So I'm going to come in now, guys, and I am going to be shaping these nails into the desired length and shape like this hand. So I'm going to take the length right down and then shape them up. So when you file in the side walls of your nail, you want your file flat and you want to be coming down the side wall of your nail, and then as you get towards the nail, the tip of the nail, you want to be turning your file on an angle like this. And you can either go in one direction, or if it is an enhancement and you want to take some nail length down, you can take it backwards and forwards. Just remember, as you come to that free edge, you turn in. And the most important part of getting a infill down in terms of time when it comes to your filing is having a decent technique. So if you stick with the same technique for all 10 fingers, you'll find that one, each nail will be consistent in length and shape, and two, it will help bring your treatment times down. So you're not doing one technique for one nail and a different technique for another nail. So I always start, everybody's different, everybody, you'll sort of get your own technique, but what I find is I work my free edge first of all, so I've got it down to my desired length, and then what I need to do is just work on the rest. Now there isn't loads of Plexigel left on there. I've e-filed it down, and then I'm taking back any areas where it needs to go to. And then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my file on a slight angle, and I'm going to work these side walls here and up to that part of the cuticle. So you're working around one side and up to the centre of your cuticle, and that will help if there's any lift. It'll help to remove any lift there, and then just bring in the shape of your nail from one side. Obviously it's slightly different for me to be able to show you this because I'm doing it on myself rather than a client, so it might look slightly awkward, and I'm now going to have to turn my hand the other way to show you this side. But then you're doing the same technique here, and what I tend to do if I'm doing it on myself is use this finger here just to pull that side wall skin away. So if you were doing it on a client, you would be pulling their skin to the side and working it, so you're not going to then catch them with the file, and obviously you would have seasoned the file as well. So then you're coming up this side wall here, and again this is on a slight angle, and you're doing the same as what you were doing a second ago on one side. You're doing it this side, and you're working up that side wall into the centre of your cuticle area, and that will just work all of the infill area. So sorry, it will work all of the infill area here where the enhancement started to grow out. And then what you do is that you then just work over that centre area, obviously this side as well, and bringing it in so it's even. And then you want to be looking down the barrel of your nail, and you want to be making sure you've got that nice sort of C curve there, so it's nice and even. And then all I do is then go over with a buffing block, just neatly, and that will smooth out any scratches that are on the enhancement, or acrylic if you use acrylic, and smooth it all out. So there's your now, and then you would move on and do the other one. So I'm going to do that. Now a good tip to use when you are doing a client's hand, obviously they're going to be facing you from this angle and you'll be filing from this angle here, which is fine. But what you also need to do is look at them sort of this way as well. You need to look at them from all angles, because then if I turn my hand this way, I filed that and it looks fine from this angle, but then when I turn it this way, if you look, it's slightly going more over to that left hand side, and that slope isn't quite as angled this side. So you do need to be making sure that when you are filing, you're looking at the nail from all angles to make sure you're not taking more of a corner off this way, because especially if you're right-handed, you will naturally file more one way than another, and then the nail will look slightly wonky. So just check from both angles. So obviously for me, I'm just going to come in from this angle now here, just to make sure that although it looks fine from that angle, I need to check it from this angle, and I need to do the same with this one here because it's going more over to that side. And just keep it even. Now obviously for me, I'm not too bothered because I want to take the length of mine down a little bit anyway, because they were really, really long. But obviously you do want to be checking this, because if your client wants to keep length to their nail and you end up filing it down too much and then it looks off balance where it's leaning more to one side than the other, it's going to mean that you're taking more length down than they want. And then when it comes to applying your Plexigel or your acrylic or whatever medium you use, you're then going to have to probably put a nail form on to then build up the side that you've taken down too much. So just bear that in mind to check your nails from all angles when you are filing, that they look nice and even. So these don't need too much work doing to them, because I don't tend to have thick enhancements. I like mine to be kept more natural looking, and they're more for the shape than actually building any length to mine. I just like to apply a bit of shaper just to plump out that shape and keep them nice so they're not looking flat. And then you move on, once you're happy, onto the cuticles. Okay, when you come to do your cuticle work, it's important to have good tools. So I always use my Katie Barnes cuticle pusher, which is this one here, and then it's also got this end here to just remove any traces of dead cuticle. So this one needs to be held at a 45-degree angle, and what you do is you just push the skin back. So you're pushing the cuticle back, and then you're also pushing back any cuticle that is adhered to the nail plate. So ideally, when it comes to removing cuticle, you are only removing the non-living tissue. You are not removing any skin that is still alive, because as I've probably mentioned in a number of my other videos, it's there for a reason. It's there to act as a seal and to keep your matrix from any bacteria getting into it, because this is where your nail will grow from. And as the cells come up the nail, they'll then begin to keratinize and become hard. So as you get closer here, it is softer because the cells haven't keratinized yet, and as they come up, they'll become harder, and that forms the nail plate, and they're the keratinized cells. Okay, so that's why if ever you drop something on your finger, or you stub your toe or anything like that, and you start to get a bruise, and it takes ages and ages for it to grow out, because obviously you've got underneath here in your matrix where your nail is growing from, if that gets damaged, the bruise, it takes a while for that to grow out. Okay, and sometimes if you damage it quite badly, what can happen is your nail will grow to a certain length, and it sometimes can split vertically, or you can have dips, or different things can happen with your nail plate, and sometimes you can get little deformities in the nail plate, and that's usually an indication that you've damaged the matrix, so the soft cells, before they've started to keratinize. And then so you'll always find that your nail will get to a certain length, and you'll have I don't know, it might split or whatever. So you do need to be careful when you're working around this area. You're only pushing back and removing that dead tissue. Okay, so a way that you'll know if you've caught any living tissue, and one that will be that you will bleed and it will be a little bit sore. Now, the risk that happens when you cut the living tissue is, because you're creating an open wound, you're creating a site for possible infection to get into it. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't think that you need to sterilize your equipment, or you think that just popping these into some barbicide and not sterilizing them properly afterwards as well is enough, it's not. Because if you've cut somebody with this and you've got blood on them, and then you've not properly sterilized and removed any traces of bacteria or whatever else, then when you come to do somebody else's cuticles, you could then cross-contaminate. Okay, and then also the risk that you pose to the person that you cut with the implements are the fact that if you've not properly sterilised and cleaned them from using them from another client and then you cut them, then potentially there could be bacteria on the tools that could then go into that open wound and cause infection. So you just need to be really, really careful. Okay, so I'm just gently removing the dead skin here. I'm not scratching at the nail plate, I'm not damaging the nail plate, so there's no scratch marks or any dents or gouges. So you'll see all the dead skin that's coming off there. And then what I always do once I've gone round, again, I just go with the pusher and just give it another push back. And it's amazing actually, when you've done those in comparison to the two that you haven't done, you can see the difference. And by pushing your cuticles back, when you do come to put your varnish on, you can actually get your brush and you can get quite close underneath that free edge. And then as they start to grow out, it's a nice neat line as it starts to grow. But you can get right underneath with that brush then, and so there doesn't look like there's any gap between the cuticle and the start of your poly. Remember to come all the way up from here, all up your side walls, because you have a lot of dry skin towards the top here. So then you need a good pair of nippers. So you can either use some nippers, or you can use, I've got these Katie Barnes scissors. So they're really good because these are curved ones. Really, really delicate and precise. So you can kind of come in and then pick up the cuticle, again only removing the dead tissue, not any living tissue. Because the other thing you'll find is if you're removing tissue that's just, if someone's got like thicker cuticle and you remove too much of that, what will happen is the cuticle will just continue to grow back thicker. You just, by taking more and more of it, you just encourage it to grow back thicker. So only take what you need to take. And the good thing about these cuticle scissors is that you can find your piece of skin and then you can turn it to the side so you don't end up nipping into the skin. And you can just follow that curve all the way around. cuticle prep is, in my opinion, the most important part of your nails. It's like a house. You wouldn't build a house without having proper foundations. So the idea is, if you prep the nail properly and take your time prepping the nail, get it right, get the nail plate right, get the cuticles right. You don't want any cuticle left on the skin, because what I've found over the years is that places that I've worked in the past where other people haven't properly removed the cuticle away, clients tend to end up coming back where it's lifted at the cuticle. And the reason why that is because if there's any cuticle left on the nail plate and you then apply polish over that cuticle that's adhered to the nail plate, as that nail starts to grow and it gets pushed further up, it will move the gel that's at the bottom, and then it causes it to lift, and then it will lift up from the bottom. So it's really, really important to make sure that you are getting rid of all of this cuticle, so that as the nail does grow up, you don't get any of that at the bottom. You're not likely to then get any lifting, and it will look neat. So you can get your polish right up to that cuticle, so you can get a really, really neat line. So then as the nail does start to grow up, because you've got a really nice neat curve there, you don't really notice it. You don't really notice the regrowth. Even with those darker colours, you don't tend to notice the regrowth because they still look so neat. So from a distance you can get away with it, especially if you've gone for like a French pink. You wouldn't even notice. Obviously the darker colours you can see a little bit of regrowth, but you've got to get closer up to see it because it looks so neat. Another troubleshooting is when it starts to lift from the free edge, and that is usually down to the fact that you haven't capped the free edge with your polish. But I can go into that when we start to look at preparing the nail, look at applying the polish to the nail. But for now, obviously the main thing is the prep work. So obviously on this little one here, I can just see there's just that little bit there. It's just been a little bit stubborn. So I'm just going to come back in with your pushy, and then this bit here, and you can see where I'm just taking that away. Okay. And just come back in, just remove the tiniest bit, and then what I then do, just going to put this back on here so I don't end up damaging them, is then I've prepped all of those. I'm just going to go over with my white buffer just to make sure there's no final traces of any flaky pieces of skin. Again, pull the skin back, work right up to that. Again, you're not pressing hard with this because you don't want to be scratching your natural nail plate. You don't want to be gouging into your nail plate. You just really want to be going up to that, working up to that cuticle. And again, because we're going to be applying your Bonder Plexigel, you want to make sure that there's no shine, natural shine on your nail. There's no oils or natural shine on that nail, because then it will form a better bond. Okay, once you've done that, this is optional, but I do this one. As you all know, I use CND. So this cuticle eraser's got like hydroxy acids in, and what it does is the hydroxy acids exfoliate any dead skin cells, so cuticle, on the nail plate. So you can actually use this on a daily basis. What I always tend to do is use this first. I've not applied a lot, choose a small amount and just rub it into the cuticle around the side walls here. So on a daily basis, even when your nails have got the enhancements and your colour on, you can actually use this. I'll probably say at night time really, because you're then not likely to wash your hands. You can use this first, and it acts as almost like your shampoo, like your hair would. And then once you've applied that all around your cuticle area, what it will do, it will help to from now and in between each set, it helps to keep that cuticle at bay. So if you've got a client or yourself, you're somebody that suffers with really thick cuticle growth, what you would do is apply a little bit of that, rub it into the around the cuticles and around the side walls before you go to bed, and that the hydroxy acids will help to exfoliate away any of those dead skin cells around your cuticle. And then you would come in with your solar oil. So I always retail, I'll just show you, I always retail these little pinky oils because they last ages. They've got a little brush so they can put them in their handbag. If they're going on holiday, they can take them, and then you would just pop a drop after you've done your cuticle eraser, and you'd rub that in as well and leave that on. You'd go to bed, and then what that would do is, where your cuticle eraser will act as your shampoo, your solar oil will act as your conditioner, and it will go in, it'll hydrate your cuticles, it'll hydrate the nail bed, and then as the new nails coming through, it keeps that hydrated as well. So that's the prep work. So obviously you wouldn't leave your cuticle eraser on when you come in to do your bonder and your shaper, but I would obviously do that on one hand, do your other hand, and then by the time you've done your other hand, that's been soaking on there for a little while, and then you can come in with your scrub fresh and remove all of that and squeak all the nails. Okay. So now you've prepared your nails and you're ready to come in with your Plexigel, what you need to be doing is going over with your scrub fresh. Now you can use a number of different things. Cotton pads work, and I have used these in the past. The only thing that I find with these is when I do come to do my colour, it does leave very, very fine traces of fluff on the nail, and it's really quite infuriating. I've also bought these lint-free wipes, and they're great too, but sometimes I find that leaves a bit of something behind. So I've recently just bought these ones, and actually what you can do is your paper wax strips, it's basically that but cut into, these are pre-cut, so I just bought them pre-cut because I was being lazy, but you can buy the wax strips and you can cut them up to the relevant size, and because they're lint free, they don't leave any fluff or anything behind, which is better. In all the years that I've tried, this is much better because then you haven't got to worry about fluff and things being left behind. So as always, I come in with my scrub fresh, and again, just be aware, obviously you want to get close up to your cuticles to make sure you're removing any traces of the cuticle eraser that you put there and any natural oils on the nail, but just be aware not to go too close to the skin, that you are going to then cause any irritation or potential damage. That's where allergies can sometimes come from. Okay. Obviously I'm doing my nails, so I'm not wearing any gloves, but if you're doing this on a daily basis and you want to avoid any allergies or anything, then my advice would be to put some gloves on to keep you and your skin protected and you're not being exposed to anything then, because as you can see here, where I've obviously been using that, it's dehydrating my skin. If you had gloves on, obviously it wouldn't do that. So just be aware of that as a tech, especially if you're somebody that's just starting out. All the products and things that are on the market these days, you do have to be careful that you're not going to end up causing any allergies. That slightly. Okay, so once you've done that, I always like to just put a little bit of tissue paper down just to protect the surface that you're working from, and you would then come in with your Plexigel bonder. The only place that you need to apply your Plexigel bonder is onto your natural nail. You do not need to apply this over the full length of the nail, otherwise you're just wasting product. So I always come up round by the side walls, because naturally as your nail grows you will lose some of the product from around there and where you filed it, and then obviously right by your cuticles, and then I drag it a little bit over just to cover just as it starts to meet the Plexigel that's there from the previous time. Okay. So I pull the skin back, and you'll see this one, I've come a little bit further up with the filing, so you just need to cover this area here. Okay. Don't need loads of this product either. If you go too thick with the product, you're going to experience breakdown issues and lifting. Okay, so once you're happy you've covered all the areas that you need to, you then need to pop it into your lamp, and you're putting it on a flash cure for 10 seconds. So button 1. And then you come in with your chosen product afterwards. So you either come in with your shaper or you come in with your builder. Now, I get asked quite a lot of questions in regards to whether to come in with builder or whether to come in with shaper. So this is down to what the client wants really, and what you want to achieve from the nail. Now, I don't want to add any length to my nails, and I don't really need to build any structure to the nail in terms of like apex or anything like that. I'm quite happy with those, so I don't need to use builder gel because it is a thicker consistency. Okay, I'll just show you for those of you that are unsure. So it's quite a thick viscosity there, so you'll see it's quite a thick gel. Okay, and that is something that you would use if, for example, somebody had broken one of the nails, and instead of having to file all the others really short, you wanted to rebuild that nail. You could either pop a form underneath and repair, which I have got other videos on this if you wanted to take a look, or you could take the nail right down, pop a tip on, and then just build the builder straight over the top. And that is what the builder gel is there for. It's to build a nail. Okay, shaper is to help people that perhaps have more of a flat nail and you need to pop a little bit of an apex in so that it doesn't look quite so flat, or you just want to plump out a nail a little bit, just to give it, as it says, a bit of shape basically. So I always opt for shaper because mine are I'm quite happy with the shape that they are, but they just need a little bit of fine tuning. So this one, for example, it's a little bit on the flat side, so it just needs a little bit adding to that centre there to give it a little bit more of an apex. It's not necessarily that it needs a big apex or anything like that to give it any major strength. So I would come in with the shaper, and the same with all these bottles. They don't need shaking, okay, not like your shellac colours that need a good shape to disperse the pigment through them so it stops it from sinking at the bottom. They don't need a shake, but what I do with these is I just hold them in the palms of my hands and I just roll them a few times just to warm the product up a little bit. You don't have to do that obviously, but I don't know, it's just something that I've got into doing. And as you can see, this product, it's although it is thick, it's not as thick as the builder gel. Now, you don't want it on both sides of your bottle because you're just going to completely flood the client's fingernail. So you would scrape off one side, okay, and you just have it on the one side. Obviously you can put more on it if you want, and then you would come in and place it. You would sort of float that product. Now, unlike when you do shellac, you always cap that free edge first. You don't do that with your Plexigel, your shaper or your builder. You work the nail itself. Now, because I don't need to add too much, I'm not going to add loads and sort of work the product down like you perhaps see on some videos. I'm literally just going to place it kind of where I want it in that centre. Now if you want to, you can work one nail at a time, but time wise you'll be there all day. Now if you want to do a set of nails, I find, especially if I'm doing a client, I'll work the 4 first of all, get them in for either a flash cure, and then work the thumb, because what you tend to find when you're doing a client's hand, you'll work these nails and you'll come to do the thumb and they'll turn their hand like that to you, and as soon as they do that, any builder gel that you've got on there will then start to move, and if you don't work quickly, by the time you turn the hand back, it'll have all pulled to the one side. So I either get them to keep their hand flat and I'll just lift up their thumb and work their thumb, or you can just work those nails, get them in for a flash cure, and then turn the hand, work the thumb, and then pop them in for a full cure. But you always need to make sure you are doing that full cure afterwards. So as I say, work quite quickly, and when you are applying the gel, if you want to keep your treatment time down and you don't want to have to then come back in and file these, take a little bit of extra care and get them perfect, and look at them from all angles to make sure that you're happy. And then you won't have to come in and file them and refine that shape. You should just be able to come then straight in with your colour. Now if, like me, what you've done is just accidentally got a little bit on the skin, ideally you don't want to be doing that. Get a little bit of a cuticle stick and take it off, because if you pop that in the lamp, it will cure, and then you've got to file it. Okay, so I'm just going to do all of these ones now, and once you're happy with the shape and everything that you've created, always cap that free edge at the end. Let's say I don't need to add too much to mine, because I'm quite happy with the shape really. It just needs a little bit just in the center really, for me anyway. And you'll see I'm not dragging the brush, I'm just sort of floating that product over, and then coming in and capping that free edge, checking my angles, checking I'm happy with all of that, so when I come to pop my polish on top, that's going to look nice and smooth. Now because I'm not using a thick amount of product here, I am able to take a little bit more time and keep turning my nail, but obviously if you are going to be using quite a thick amount of product, this is when you need to be aware that if you are going to be turning the client's hand, the product will move if you've gone too thick. Obviously the more confident you become with the product, you'll sort of find your way and what works for you, whether you want to just go and do all 5 nails, or if you want to do 4, or you just want to do one at a time. If you are going to do one at a time, I really would suggest just flash curing for 10 and then putting them all on button 2B for the final full cure. Otherwise you really will be there all day. You see I'm just floating that product over, turning my brush where I need to. Now I do find that my thumb always needs a little bit more work than any of my other nails, because for some reason it likes to curve at the ends. So I do have to, and it kind of flicks up a little bit, so I do have to give it a little bit more attention. Because another good way is, I don't know if you can see that line of light there, so where the light is hitting it, you can see it's pretty much a straight line until it gets to there, and then you'll see it kind of goes in and then back out. So that is an indication that there is a dip in the nail, because if there wasn't a dip, that line would just be smooth all the way like it is there, you see. So that's like a nice apex, it's got a nice curve to it, and then we get to here and there's a dip. So I need to go in with a bit of builder gel, a bit of shaper there, just to plump that bit out so that there's no dip. And when you turn it to the side, I don't know if you can really see, there is a very, very slight dip. So as I say, I always need to just spend a little bit more time on my thumb, not a problem. And then this is also one that I may find that when it comes to finishing, I might just have to go over slightly with the buffer just to give it a really nice smooth finish so that there's no areas. So you see now. Okay, I'm just going to go over and check with them, make sure none of them moved to the side while I've been talking. Yeah, so there's a very, very slight dip still in my thumb. I'm not too fussed because I am just going to go over slightly with my buffing block here when the time comes. Now then, the other thing that you may find with clients, if you build the product on their nail too thickly, they will get a heat spike because of the nature of the product. So what you need to do is, as I've said, work thinly. You don't have to work thick. Work thinly, and flash cure for 10. So when you pop it in, button 1 and the LED will flash on and off, on and off. And what it will do is it will stop you from getting that sort of heat spike in the nail. The other thing that I found that you can do if you've got somebody that is a little bit more sensitive is you can, I'm just going to lift this up and just show you. Okay, so this is the CND lamp. So in the lamp you've got this hole here and this hole here. So what you would advise the client to do is to place their thumb on that hole, okay, and then their hand can go in. So by doing that, the hand, when you put the top back on, it's not too close, they're not putting it in too far that it's too close to any of the LED lights, okay. So use this, depending on which hand they're using, use that as your thumb guide to get them to place their thumb on there, and lift the lid off the lamp so that they can see where they're placing the hand. You can see where they're placing the hand. Get them to put their thumb there, hand goes in, and then the top of the lamp, let me just move that a second, the top of the lamp then sits back on top, okay. So then on the back of the lamp, if I just show you, so you'll all be familiar with this because you should be using the CND lamp. So there's your button 1, and that's a 10-second flash cure. And then you've got your button 2B, which is your 60 seconds, and that is for your Plexigel. Then you've got your button 2S, and that is for your shellac. Okay, and that does a 60-second cure. So the difference between this button here and this button here, they're both 60 seconds, but for the first 10 seconds of this one, it will flash. This one won't, it will just be on solid for 60 seconds. Okay, and then your button 3 is obviously for your top coat. All right, but you should all know that anyway if you are using this system, because you would have had to have gone through the relevant training in order to be able to do it. So that's had a full cure now. And as I say, I shouldn't really need to then come in and do anything with those. If I want to, I can come in and just shape up that thumb. So I think I might just do that with that thumb. So because of that, this will be, it will be tacky on top. So if I just show you on this one, you can see there, look, that line of light, it's just still got a very, very slight dip. Nothing major, but enough that when I put the product on, it'll probably annoy me. So I am just going to tidy it up a little bit. So because I'm going to be buffing over this, it is tacky on top. There is an inhibition layer. So what you need to do is you need to come in with your disperse. Okay. And you just need to cleanse over that. So again, keeping away from the skin, excuse me, it's keeping away from the skin, and you're going over, okay. And then what that will do is it's smooth, it's not tacky, it's not sticky to touch, okay. So you would then come in, I'm going to come in with my buffing block, just going to pop my dust extractor underneath just so I don't get any dust all over that. And I'm just going to come in and just shape. It's really only that end. I've had quite a few questions where people have said, do I remove that inhibition layer? Can I go straight in with the colour? So the answer to that question is yes. If you are happy with the shape, go straight in with your colour. You do not need to remove the inhibition layer because that will act as your base coat. You do not need to then put the shellac base coat on because the Plexigel is the base coat. If, however, like me, you want to tidy up the nail anywhere, then yes, you will need to remove that inhibition layer because otherwise you're going to get all of that sticky product on your buffer or your file. Okay, so I am now quite happy with the shape of that, so I'm just going to move this out of the way. And I'm just going to cleanse back over to make sure that there's no dust or anything on the nail. And just check it from all the angles that I want to check it from. Obviously, it's not shiny, so you're not going to see that line of light like you would on these ones. Obviously, make sure that there's no dust gone onto these from where you filed your other one, which they haven't. And then I'm going to come in with my colour. I am actually going to be using Self Lover from Shellac for the base on 3. So these two here and that one here of my nails. And then I'm actually coming in with this one here from my Glossify range. Okay, now because I'm using this product, I will not be curing it in my CND lamp. I will be curing it in my Glossify lamp because it is important that when you are using any gel colour, you use it with the lamp that it was designed to work with. So to begin with, I'm going to come in with my shellac. And as always, you give your bottle 2 fingers here and your thumb at the bottom, and you're giving it a shake. And that will just, any pigment that's sunk to the bottom, you're going to be moving the product around. So with your shellac, you're going to do your 5-point method. So we always start by capping the free edge. Okay. And then you're starting halfway down the nail, and then you're pushing that product right up to your cuticle. Okay, so as close up to that cuticle as you can. And because these brushes are curved, they'll hug that cuticle quite nicely. Okay, bring it down the length of the nail, pull the skin to the side and work this side wall here. And then work your other side wall without obviously touching the skin. Go over and neaten up, okay? And then obviously once you've done your others, you can get those into the lamp. Okay, so I'm doing this one and this one. So the same, you're pushing it right back. Now your thumb's slightly different because it is wider, so it will probably take more than your 5-point method. And you want to get it right neat up to your cuticles. Okay, so those are the 3 that I'm doing in the shellac. So we get it in on button 2S, and that's 60 seconds, but it's your shellac cure. Okay, and then you're coming in with your second coat, so exactly the same method. Okay, now as much as I love that colour, I want to add an extra element to it. So I'm going to come in with yours Pearl Effect Pink Pearl Powder. So you see it's got like a pearlized shimmer to it. So before I come in and pop these 2 nails of colour on, I'm just going to come in and just pop some of this on. So I'm going to use my Lucente G1 brush, and I find that if I come in with the lid, there's usually enough on there to begin with. Okay, and all I'm doing is I am burnishing that product into the tacky part of the colour that's on there. You see? Oh, look at that. That's lovely. Okay, and I'm going to do that to all of my nails. So now we're going to come in with this colour here, but because we're using the Glossify range, we need to now come in with the Glossify lamp. So you'll see I've painted one. So same process, cap your free edge. Now, because I've used Glossify on this one and this one, I am going to come in with the Glossify top coat just to finish it off. Because it's important that if you're using certain brands, that you are using sort of like the full kit basically. So if you were just doing gel and you were just doing like the Glossify, you would do base, 2 of your colour and top. Same with shellac, base, 2 of your colour and top. Now obviously I have used Plexigel underneath, but it's a fully cured builder gel system, so it's cured, so I can then apply whatever gel polish I want on top. But what I wouldn't do is apply the Glossify gel, 2 colours, and then apply the shellac top coat, because let's remember Glossify is a hard gel and shellac is a hybrid polish. Okay, so it's not a hard gel. So you just apply obviously 2 of your colour and then the top coat that is designed to go with it. Okay, so I equally would not be applying the Glossify top coat over the 3 shellac polishes that I've used, because then you're not using the system that is designed to work together. Because as I say, this is a hard gel and shellac is a hybrid polish. Okay, so just be aware of that. That is again when you're going to start noticing you're having any issues. If you then use a hard gel top coat over a hybrid polish, then the likelihood is then you're going to get cracks, or there's going to be movement of the polish underneath. It's not designed to work together in that sense. Now this top coat is a non-wipe top coat, meaning that is completely dry. However, I always think it's good practice that regardless of whether it's a no wipe top coat or not, unless obviously you plan on doing a chrome powder over one, it's always good practice to just go over and just remove anything, just to be on the safe side, because then when you come to put your solar oil in, you're then not going to be pushing any of that product into the matrix. Okay, because let's bear in mind that the oils that will go through into the nail bed. Now if there's any product on that cuticle, the cuticle oil will drag that product through into the nail bed with it. Okay, so these 2 are now fully cured. I've got to come back to these, so I would move my Glossify lamp out the way and come back in with my shellac. Now I am going to, because I've put the pigment over the top, I do need to come in with a top coat, purely because I am going to do a bit of a design. You'd need to put a top coat on if you were leaving it like that anyway, but I am going to come and do a design. So for the purposes of that, I only need to use Express 5 top coat, because I don't want Duraforce, because I'm coming in with another design that I'm going to then need top coat. Okay, so I would just use the Express 5 because it's a thinner one and it's not so much to have to remove. Okay, so I've come in with my Express 5 top coat and I've gone over with my disperse to remove the inhibition layer, and now I'm going to come in with another part to my design for these 3 nails. So I've now chosen cashmere wrap, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come in just across here, slightly lighter. It's not neat, doesn't have to be neat, because the way that my design is, it's just the corner that I want covering. So you'll see that's a slightly different colour. And I'm going to do the same with these two here. And that's got to go in for a 60-second cure on button 2S. Now I'm going to come in with some stamping now for my design over the top. So I've just got this stamper here, which is a Moyu stamper. There's obviously lots of other ones out there, but I like this one. So you take your front part off, she says. Okay, and then at the bottom you take that section off as well, so you can see through the stamper. So that is like a jelly-like consistency. Okay, and then I'm going for this stamping plates. This is double-sided. So what I always do when it comes to doing stamping, some people like to use a lint roller. I actually prefer sellotape. I just find it easier, but again, you'll find your own preference. So the purpose of the sellotape is to just go over your jelly stamper to make sure there's no fluff on it. Always use your piece of tissue underneath, and then you will need to cleanse the area that you're working over. So this is where you come in with your acetone, and you just make sure there's no trace of anything on that. And then I'm just going to come in with yours black. Now you do have to use stamping polishes for this, because they are standard nail polishes and they are thicker in consistency. Okay, and the way you work these is you obviously choose your design, you then scrape over your design, and then you come in with your jelly stamper. Okay, and it will transfer onto your stamper. Now any areas that you don't want, this is where I come in with my sellotape and just remove any unwanted parts of the design. Okay, and I'm going to turn that over. So I'm putting it on this one, and this one. So I'll start here, might as well, and I'm just going to lay that over finger. Okay, and I'm going to do the same with this one here. So then I've just got this one to do as well. Okay, with this colour again, I'm going to come in, I'm just going to pop a drop of that onto there. I'm going to use my Erin Searle art brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to fill in any areas of the nail in between where I've stamped. Just to add a bit more depth to the design, and then I'm going to pop that into the lamp and cure. Now remember, with this one, because we've used the Glossify, we need to go back in with the Glossify lamp. And there is the finished design, and I'm going to come in with a top coat now just to finish those off. So you can choose whatever top coat you want. I'm going to come in with my Duraforce top coat, just to give it that extra little bit of strength. If you find that because where you've added that extra sort of glittery colour in between the nail art, if you find that any nail art that you've added causes the nail to sort of have any ridges or any bumps on, what you can do is you can apply a thin layer of base coat before you apply your top coat. And I have said this in previous videos as well, because what that will do is it'll help to sort of self level and fill in any of those gaps between the nail art that you've added and the polish that's underneath it, so that then when you come in with your top coat, it will feel smooth rather than sort of ridged in any areas. If you're not really fussed because the ridges, they're not too raised and you don't mind, then just go straight in with your top coat. And that goes on button 3 for your cure for your top coat. And that's them all done. So as always, once you've finished with your top coat, you always need to come in and remove that inhibition layer with your disperse. Remember, you're not wiping onto the skin, you're coming away and down. So you're not going to be dragging any of that product onto the skin, so that when you put your oil on, you're not going to be pushing that product into the nail. Okay, so they're all done, and then you can come in with your soda oil and hand lotion if you've got some. And that's it, guys. Any questions, anything that you want to know, any of the steps that you're unsure of or want a little bit more clarification on, or any advice, do pop me a message and I will try and help you as best as I can. As always, if you like and subscribe to catch any of my videos that I upload in the future, and if you want to follow any of my social media channels, then it is Nails by Charl Eds. Okay guys, thanks ever so much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.